This is All India Radio. In the national program of talks tonight, we bring you a discussion entitled Mahatma and his Village of Service, commemorating the 150th birth anniversary of Bapu. The participants are Dr. Sibi K. Joseph, Dean of Study and Research, Institute of Gandhian Studies, Wardha; Srimati Shweta Shergaonkar, eminent Gandhian philosopher and writer; and Srimati Vartika Dikshit, IT professional, freelance radio artist and writer, who initiates and moderates the discussion.
Hello and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So as we are heading towards 150th birth anniversary celebrations of Gandhiji, we are all here to discuss regarding Mahatma Gandhi and his village of service, Sevagram. We are extremely fortunate that we have with us two great personalities who are here to discuss about Mahatma Gandhi, his life and philosophies. I would like to take this opportunity to extend a very warm welcome to both Dr. Sibi K. Joseph. He is the Dean of Studies and Research, Institute of Gandhian Studies, Wardha. He holds a master's degree in Gandhian Thought and Peace, Science and PhD in Gandhian Thought and Development Studies from Mahatma Gandhi University, Kottayam, Kerala. He participated in a number of conferences, workshops and symposiums and delivered a number of lectures on Gandhian themes and also on development studies. He has published many articles in reputed journals in various disciplines. He edited a number of books and has published several monographs and articles on Gandhian thought and peace studies. His most recent book, Lanza del Vasto, A Messenger of Peace, was published by Gandhi International, France. Once again, a very warm welcome to you, sir.
Thank you so much.
And our second guest of honor today is Srimati Shweta Shergaonkar, public speaker, trainer, writer, actor, completely a multifaceted personality who also played Kasturba in a play titled Jagdamba, and a narrator in a documentary based on life of Dr. Sushila Nair titled Bapu Ki Beti. A very warm welcome to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Namaskar.
Namaskar. As we are heading towards 150th birth anniversary celebration of Mahatma Gandhi, I would like to ask you, sir, how and why is Sevagram an important place in the life of Gandhiji?
See, Sevagram is the fourth ashram established by Mahatma Gandhi, which literally means the village of service. His first ashram, or experimental community, known as Phoenix Settlement, was established in Durban in South Africa in 1904 to put into practice the ideas of John Ruskin's work unto this last, and to run Indian Opinion, a publication which he started in the year 1903 to serve the interest of Indian community there. His second ashram, Tolstoy Farm, was established in 1910 near Johannesburg, a corollary to Phoenix Settlement during the second Satyagraha struggle. And his third ashram was established in India on his return from South Africa in 1950 in a place called Kochrap near Ahmedabad. It was shifted to the banks of river Sabarmati in 1917. The historic Salt March, or the Dandi March, was started on 12th March 1930, and he took a solemn vow that he will not return to the ashram until and unless India get independence. That led to the establishment of the ashram in Sevagram. The credit of bringing Gandhi to Sevagram goes to Jamanlal Bajaj, who is considered as the fifth son of Gandhi, for persuading Gandhi to settle down in Wardha and for the establishment of the ashram. Gandhi came to Sevagram in September 23, 1933, on his release from Erwada jail. At that time, he was staying in Bajajwadi, which was the official residence of Jamanlal Bajaj. He started his Harijan tour from here on November 7, and it was in Nagpur he declared the world that the removal of untouchability is my religion. He returned to Wardha again in August 7, 1934 and stayed in Satyagraha Ashram of Vinod Bhave at Wardha, presently what is known as Mahilasam. It was during this period Gandhi decided to retire from the Indian National Congress, and finally he resigned from the Congress on 29th October 1934. He decided to devote all his energies for the uplift of the villages. Jamnalal Bajaj donated 20 acres of land and a house which was later renamed as Maganwadi in the memory of Maganlal Gandhi. And the first village which Gandhi selected was not the Sevagram, it was Sindhi. And Gandhi, while writing in Harijan, said, "I am really and literally drained dry. I have no gift for weaving messages to order. The village work is so taxing and so baffling that if I could help it, I would stop all writing and simply bury myself in work in village." Thus, it is clear that Gandhi was determined to work in a typical village, and he was search of a typical village. And it goes to the credit of Madeline Slade, who was a daughter of a British admiral who came to India and became a disciple of Gandhi. She selected the site Sevagram. And Sevagram was initially known as, at that time, it was known as Segaon, which was renamed in the year 1940. Gandhi first came to Sevagram on April 30, 1936, and he stayed in a makeshift arrangement under the shelter of a guava tree and stayed for a couple of days. He was not in favor of creating an ashram as a community of people away from the village. In fact, he wanted to convert the whole village into an ashram. He wanted to stay alone in the village, and Kasturba could join if she wanted. But in the course of time, the form of an ashram was taking place. That marked the birth of historic Sevagram Ashram, where Gandhi lived and worked for many years.
And that's actually a wonderful picture drawn by Sir. As Gandhiji said, the earth, the air, the land and the water are not an inheritance from our forefathers, but a loan from our children. So we have to hand over to them as it was handed over to us. Ma'am, now I would request you to throw some light or help us draw a picture for our listeners of the Sevagram, Village of Services.
When, as a student of Gandhian thought, or just as Indian citizen, you visit some heritage site related to Gandhi, or where Gandhiji lived, or where he worked, you have some image in your mind. And it is my experience that mostly, whether it is about the heritage site or historical site or even a religious place,
Right.
once you reach there, you find that it is different from the image.
That's
But it is not so about Sevagram, or rather about any place related to Gandhiji. Normally what happens that in order to promote the heritage site for tourists or as a tourist attraction, some artificiality is added to it. But it is not so about Sevagram. It is full of positive energy, and you feel that Gandhiji is there somewhere, and in a moment he will be in front of you and he would start talking to you.
Okay.
Because he has worked there for so much time, and he has groomed so many persons, whether it is Sushila Nair ji or Mahadev Bhai Desai ji or other Shishyas,
Okay.
who then took forward the Gandhian thought and his work. So that energy is there.
Okay.
And you get surrounded by it, and you get inspired by it once you are there.
Okay. So in a way, it is an epitome of Gandhiji's simple living and high thinking ideology.
Now see, just 2 days back,
Right.
one speaker was saying what kind of development we have achieved. We cannot, when you go on the road, there is no fresh air.
Right.
Our rivers,
Right.
they are polluted. So you don't have water, pure air. What kind of development it is? At the time you remember what definition of development Gandhiji gave to you, and which still is there that the development should not be human-centric, it should be nature-centric. It should be in harmony with nature.
So, as the world is grappling the challenges of nature and climate change, is it time to revisit Gandhi's cosmocentric approach to human beings?
Yes, definitely. Because if you, like you said, that we have borrowed this earth from our children, and we have not inherited it from our ancestors.
Right.
So we have to preserve it for future generations.
Right. It is like an asset.
True. So we should live in harmony with nature.
Right.
That you find a good model of a modern town as well as an ancient village in Sevagram. It is a good combination of both.
Okay.
And imagine when Gandhiji started his work, there was no electricity, there were no facilities, and he started it like the other villages. He would live there like the other villages, and he built the Adi Nivas himself. There is the Adi Nivas where he first started living. There is the Akhri Nivas, which he left, went for Noakhali, and then he never returned. The Adi Nivas is surrounded by the prayer ground. So you see that Nai Talim Center, the education, now there is so much of talk about changes in education policy and skill-based education. Gandhiji long back guided us about how education should be, though unfortunately it could not be implemented that time.
Right. So, how and why Sevagram was chosen to be established as one of the important seats for Gandhiji? And how, sir, would you explain the location of Sevagram? How can a person reach Sevagram to revisit the life and philosophy of Gandhiji?
See, Sevagram differs from all other ashrams established by Gandhi in terms of its approach and its appearance. See, this ashram clearly depicts his ideological evolution and changing approach to life and philosophy. And it is interesting to quote what he wrote in Harijan in 1936. He wrote, "You may be sure I am living now just the way I wish to live, what I might have done at the beginning. Had I more light, I am doing now in the evening of my life, at the end of my career, building from the bottom up. Study my way of living here. Study my surroundings if you wish to know what I am." And he further said, "Village improvement is the only foundation on which conditions in India can be permanently ameliorated." See, even the building, the Adi Nivas, which was already a reference has been made. Gandhi wanted to build this house or hut using the material available within the radius of 75 kilometers. And he made it a condition that it should not exceed more than 100 rupees. And Gandhi's hut was built accordingly, and that hut was renamed as Adi Nivas. And if you are looking at this hut, it is of great historical significance. This hut witnessed many important meetings and discussions which determined the very future of India. The idea of Quit India movement or Bharat Chodo Andolan took its shape in the first meeting held here. Similarly, the preliminary deliberations of individual satyagraha were also held in this iconic mill. In the course of time, a lot of buildings were added to it for the Kasturba, and then the iconic building, the Bapukuti, which was initially used by Miraben and expanded as per the requirements of Gandhi. Then there is an open prayer ground. And also there is, I should mention about Prachure Kuti, which was built for treating a leprosy affected person. Gandhi had to come all the way from Delhi to treat Prachure Shastri, who was a Sanskrit scholar, and a special kuti was built for him. And the hut for the secretaries and other buildings.
Ma'am, I would like to ask you regarding this. As the contemporary society delves on the meaning of life amidst the plethora of complex problems it has to negotiate with in their daily lives, how does one discuss on what path, how does one discern on what path to tread basis life and philosophy of Gandhiji?
See, Sevagram is named as the village of service. It still retains that sacredness. When you reach there, you realize that you have come to the village of service. Today, when we have come to a realization that the path of materialism has given us nothing, the more you reach for, the empty you become inside. So now the so-called management gurus and the people, they are now suggesting an alternate path. They are now suggesting you the minimalistic living, which Gandhi ji taught us long back, that if we want our Mother Earth to survive, and if we want humanity to survive on it for a long time to come, we have to adopt this approach to go beyond one's needs and one's family's needs and look at the broader perspective.
So, in the backdrop of materialistic culture that dominates our world, Gandhiji's ideas of simple living, truth and non-violence can be the guiding light for a generation, and especially so in our case, in our generation, which more often seems to be getting diverted from moral values and ethics. So now the next thing which I would probably seek your help on would be, Gandhiji or Bapu was unique in this modern world to advocate non-violent methods for solving social, economic, political and religious problems. In this particular context, please help us examine the efficacy of Satyagraha, a non-violent technique that Gandhiji had adopted as a weapon of warfare without weapons.
See, now Gandhi, peace and non-violence has become synonym. That is why October 2nd is celebrated by the United Nations as the International Non-Violence Day. And one of the lasting contribution which Gandhi made was his concept of Satyagraha. Satyagraha, which literally means holding fast to truth or insistence on truth. It has been a source of inspiration for people working on non-violence. And I will take you the most recent example, which happened couple of days in Sudan. In Sudan, the dictatorial regime has to go and the president has to resign.
Right.
And it was basically through the technique of non-violence this had happened. And if you are looking into the life of many prominent personalities, for example, in India, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and Gandhi's life has been a source of inspiration. Lanza del Vasto, or popularly known as the French Gandhi or the European Gandhi, who was instrumental in leading the historic Lazare struggle, which continued for 10 years in Europe, especially in France.
Right.
The French government forcibly took the land of the agriculturists for military expansion, and the people fought against. And all over the globe, if you are looking, there is growing importance of non-violence, and people are looking for alternatives, and non-violence is the only hope. That is why Martin Luther King, the question is between non-violence or non-existence.
To take this discussion further, I would like to add that Mahatma Gandhi has named his autobiography as My Experiments with Truth.
Right.
It is high time that we begin our experiments with truth.
Right.
Like all great personalities, Gandhiji never asked people to emulate him, that you copy him. He said, you discover your own truth. This is how I have discovered my path. He traveled the villages. He went to the last person in the line, and that's why he was always talking about the last person.
Right.
Today again we have to rediscover Gandhi within us.
So that was, I think, in complete concurrence to the bottom-up approach, right?
Right.
And to add to it, the two pillars of Gandhism, truth and non-violence, since the world is facing a big challenge as terrorism is prevalent all over. Global Village is facing an issue regarding terrorism. So how can we actually implement Gandhian philosophies to treat those terrorist mindsets who have become terror prone by chance or by choice?
Like Gandhi ji would say, or all the philosophers, whether it is Jesus or any saint or any great personality, that you don't hate the person, you hate that bad quality and try to remove that bad quality.
Right.
I would like to tell you that there is a great research which is being carried on in some Oriental countries and in some Western countries also, that how you can reform somebody just by praying for that person. So you can talk about the negativity which is present in those mindsets, but what is the root cause of the negativity? Nobody is born with that negativity. So what are the circumstances around us in the society or in the world,
Right,
which compel those people to go on that path of violence? If we change those circumstances, then definitely they will come back to the normalcy
Okay.
or to the normal path.
So we can, in a way, give our positive vibrations
True.
to those people.
See, if you are looking an answer to terrorism from a non-violent angle, Gandhi's approach was basically to address the basic issues which leads to violence. That is why Gandhi is considered as a precursor of conflict resolution or conflict transformation. Gandhi had a special knack of dealing with conflict. He has not looked upon conflict. He looked upon conflict as an opportunity. And from that opportunity, he used to address the larger issues confronting the society and transform into a good social, political, economic order.
Now, the importance of Gandhian thoughts about cleanliness, we definitely need to touch upon that. As our present Prime Minister, Shri Narendra Modi ji, he said in the year 2014 on 2nd October that it is our social responsibility to fulfill Gandhiji's vision of clean India by his 150th birth anniversary in 2019. So what do we expect, or what do we have to contribute in order to fulfill that dream or vision of Gandhiji?
Start from our home, start from our premises, then move to the colony, then to the city, then to the state, and then to the nation. Gandhi would always say that. And like, because we are talking about Sevagram, so when you visit that Sevagram, you are surrounded by the positivity, the cleanliness, and the simplicity. So that we should bring in our lives.
Right.
Just by putting a garland on Gandhiji's statue on his birth anniversary would not serve the purpose. We are fortunate that he born here and it was his karma bhumi.
Right.
Had he been some Western philosopher, we would look at him in a different way. But
Yeah.
because he was of our own land, so today just by taking the name of Gandhiji, we talk this and that and bad and good. Instead of that, just look at what work he has done.
Right.
And what legacy he has left for us and which we have to take forward.
So in a way, we need to teach our children the importance of his thoughts, his philosophies, and not just celebrate it as another gazetted holiday or something. So, sir, what kind of teachings would you like to give to our children, our future generations, to emulate Gandhiji? Those who have not seen him, those who have not felt that emotionally connected to him.
See, when Gandhi was asked to give a message, he himself said, "My life is my message." We can learn a lot from the life of Gandhi, how he dealt with the issues and an alternative philosophy of life based on truth and non-violence and alternative lifestyle. The message of Gandhi is the message of truth and non-violence, simplicity, leading a life based on ethical values and leading a life in tune with nature.
Right. So, the contemporary society, our generation and our future generations, have a lot to learn from Gandhiji and a lot still to learn from his teachings, his philosophies. And any other particular aspect that you think that Gandhiji would have addressed in today's world?
I would like to say that whenever you visit Sevagram or any premises related to Gandhiji's memory, don't visit it as a tourist place, a historic place or a temple. I say don't worship him, don't hate him. Try to explore. So visit that place as a laboratory where he conducted his experiments with human nature, with alternative education, with alternative living, with alternative politics. And then you see and analyze on your own what this laboratory has given you and what more you can add from your intelligence, your experience to make our living in sync with nature.
And he used to emphasize on the fact that every individual has the potential to change the world. But it starts from one single person, and it could be us. The two pillars of Gandhism, again I would say, truth and non-violence, though they are extremely challenging in today's world and the present scenario. However, we can imbibe it from ourselves. At least we can start from us, right?
You see, some still people say that Gandhi ji is not relevant, or how would you live with those ideals in today's world. But when youth of today want their demand to be fulfilled, what path do they choose? There is a Mook Morcha.
Right.
There is a silent march.
Right.
And who has taught this path to the world? It is
Right.
Gandhi only.
That's true. So even today, Gandhi's relevance cannot be neglected.
Challenged.
Cannot
Can
be
never be
challenged.
challenged.
Yeah, it can never be challenged. And it is for years to stay. We discussed the views on relevance of Gandhiji in today's world, what he would have done to address the issues of climate change, cleanliness and terrorism. His village of service or Sevagram, an extremely inviting and warm place for the seekers of peace, values of simplicity, truth and non-violence, to set them in tune with nature. As we come to the close of the discussion, I would again like to thank our guest for the evening, Dr. Sibi K. Joseph and Mrs. Shweta Shelgaonkar. Once again, thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us on our discussion, and thank you for sharing your views.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
In the national program of talks tonight, you were listening to a discussion entitled Mahatma and His Village of Service, commemorating the 150th birth anniversary of Bapu. The participants were Dr. C.B. K. Joseph, Dean of Study and Research, Institute of Gandhian Studies, Wardha; Srimati Shweta Shelgaonkar, eminent Gandhian philosopher and writer; and Srimati Vartika Dikshit, IT professional, freelance radio artist and writer, who moderated the discussion. Produced by Shri Sachin Ladole, this program was a contribution of AIR Nagpur in our national program of talks and came to you from the Delhi station of All India Radio.